Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden on this cold day. Winter is back. Boo! I was not expecting that. I'm not ready for that. I enjoyed lovely spring days. I was already out here in the t-shirt and now that. But well, it is what it is. We have a wind coming straight from Scandinavia. So whoever watches from Scandinavia and Finland, if this is a temperature that you're normally facing at this time of the year, kudos. I'm impressed. Honestly, whoa, that is quite rough. But I think it's going to last maybe for a couple more days and it's over. Yesterday was the worst, to be fair. And I shouldn't complain because people gardening in Denmark and I think along the entire coastline of Germany, they had even snow. So I'm quite happy that I got around that part. So no snowman for me. At least not at this time of the year anymore. Later, when it's December again, I'm happy, but no, I'm over it. I don't want to have snow, so I'm not signing up for that. I was already out for a very quick project in the morning in the garden. I was just at the back at the slope and I just did a little replanting. So I didn't share it with you because what I did basically is, I start this new herbaceous border there. And at one point very soon, I'll plant the border up and I want to make sure that the border and the background, like whatever happens behind the fence is going to melt naturally into one big field and one big drift and border. So I want to put the same plants on both sides of the fence to get that effect. So I needed to replant a little bit. I was just replanting some phlox and I think some asters. I already forgot. Yeah, asters and phlox. That's already what I replanted. And that's it. So I thought, you know what, this is not hyper interesting. At one point, I'm going to plant the entire board and everything, and then the interesting, fun part really starts. But I'm going to plant something today with you, and this is going to happen here at the main entrance or just next to the driveway. If I swing around, you get to see, well, there is still some pots standing and some flowers as well, some pansies, and two of those pansies are not looking too good anymore. So I thought, okay, it is a good time to really get there and start planting those because the longer they sit on the driveway, the worse they get. And it's actually quite over time to really do what I'm doing today because when I walk out of the main entrance there, I just look at this narrow kind of border next to a hatch. I think I've never really shown you that. I'm going to do it now. The hatch is not in a good state. I'm telling you, after we cut it, I was like, ooh. So we already debate on what to do, how long this is going to stay there. I'm not really sure. So let's see, maybe another future project is on its way, hopefully not for this year. But there is also this very funny area just in the middle of that bed. And funny indicates that it's not really pleasant to look at. And I always try to just put some pots there to make it look nicer. And the pots that are there right now are not really looking nice. It was kind of just like all of those leftovers that I just put on there. And now is a good time to just really get there and make it look nice and spring and really beautiful again. So hope you're excited to spend the day with me in the garden. This is the view when we just step out of the main entrance of the house. So as you might know, the main entrance of the house is not facing to the front of the house. It's actually facing to the midsection of the garden, which I always quite enjoy. On the left, there are those pots that we potted up together earlier this year, and everything looks still nice. So happy with that. And the hyacinth, they come to flower. Wonderful pops of pink in here. I think everything works so nice with the colors. Really loving those moss containers. I think they just bring this special element of like tranquility and they just really calm everything down. And this is the area where I want to work in today with you. Oh, I'm stepping in the wind now. Really cold. So you can tell there is quite a narrow border here just in front of that hatch, in between the hatch and the driveway actually. And they're just all different things. Now there's some rose in there. There's a really wonderful viburnum that already spreads its perfume just standing here. Some grasses, some iris, bearded iris. And then there is a hatch which has massive holes in it already. So this is arborvitae, and I'm really not sure for how long we can keep that. And the hatch having all those holes, the wind really finds its way through there now, so it's not such a pleasant sight. But this is even a worse pleasant sight at the moment. What this is, it is supposed to be a well, apparently. So there is this metal lid on top of it. I lifted it, but there's just sand in there. So it's like maybe like half a meter deep and then there's just sand. So I'm really not sure about the concept of that well at all. But you can tell what I did is I just dumped basically a lot of old pots on there. So nothing really nice to look at. Just some ivy, one hellebore that definitely fizzled out, I'm afraid. I just checked 2 heather plants that were still from a Halloween planting. You might remember those. They are dead as a doornail, so they are bound to go into the compost heap. And I think only the euchera will find its way into the landscape. All the rest is pretty much dead. I mean, those tiny Christmas trees are still looking cute, at least the one on the left. The one on the right is also not such a happy camper, so I'm not quite sure what to do with that one. But this is exactly the area where I want to put some nice new spring pots, because it is really important to have something just nice and pleasant to look at here, especially when there's nothing really happening in the borders yet. And here are the plants that I want to use together with you today. So I still have 2 more ivy spheres, same ones that I used in my previous video. Remember the ones that I planted just next to the urn, flanking both sides of it. Then I have a container with tulips, and they are looking already really nice and cute in here. This is, if I remember right, Queen of Nights, a very nice, dark, almost like black tulip, wonderful. And then I have Eucharis, couldn't resist but buying 3 of them. I've got Pansies and more pansies. So I found another tray of these really wonderful like color blend ones, like all shades of pink and then a little red in here, that I already used for the planting project in front of the garden shed. And then I have these pansies here, and oh, that one is not looking too happy already, even though I watered them. So they definitely need to go into the ground, but I love them. Look at these flowers, really frilly, frou-frou, beautiful, really nice, velvety, rich color. So I think that they will be a beautiful combination also here with these eucharis. And even with the pink pansies, I think that they are just like a really wonderful blend. And then I have 5 more hyacinth. I quickly bought 5 more hyacinth because I thought it would be just like nice to mirror what is happening on the other side of the driveway. So everything kind of looks very color coordinated and cohesive. I've got some more pots in here. So I bought this brand new huge pot, which I'm really excited about, obviously. Plenty of small ones. I've got this brand new basket weave fence that I took with me from Germany as well, and in there are a couple of crocks that I obviously need always to cover up the drainage holes inside the container. If you don't have crocks, I'm showing you what else I could use. This is just the base of one of those pots, basically, like when you buy your plants in. So I would just like cut it off and then put it upside down into the container so that this part covers a drainage hole, so water can still run out, but the soil does not wash out so easily. So this also works fairly well. And the last thing what I have here, this is one of the other little Christmas trees that stood next to the garden shed, but there was one of the pots that actually broke during winter, so quickly it went into a plastic container. And I think I'm going to pot it on into this bigger pot to make sure that it survives, and it needs watering. I can already see starting to yellow a little bit on the tips. This is not looking ideal. So yeah, I'm going to water everything. Oh, Alfie comes and Alfie found something. Look, Alfie brought me a toy. A little snail. Wonderful. At least nothing inside. So this is how I like those animals, right? You do as well, Alfie. Do you? Do you? Oh yeah, you just dawdle off with your new toy. I just quickly go up here with you on the terrace because here's no wind. This is the nicest, most pleasant place in the entire garden right now, but nothing stops me. I'm still going to do those containers down there because I know it's going to be a fast project. I just quickly want to tell you why I have more of those euspheres. Number one, I think whenever you do a container or a pot garden, it's nice to have things in there that do not bloom or flower, because otherwise I sometimes feel it can look a little too much. I think it's nice to have like this momentum of tranquility or something that is just there for a shape, a foliage texture, a color. So I think the topiary is always a nice idea. So is the euchera, obviously. The eucheras are going to come to flower, but at one point later in the year. So I think before that happens, maybe they're not even their pots anymore. Lovely thing about the euchera, by the way, is when I went to the garden center to buy some more mulch, I discovered that they had eucharis, and I was like, oh, perfect, exactly what I needed for this pot arrangement. And the woman at the checkout, she looked at me like, you just bought mulch yesterday, haven't you? And I was like, well, yeah, pretty much. I was here yesterday as well. And then she said, like, oh, I give you a discount on the eucharis. So she gave me the eucharis for 50% discount. I was like, not going to complain about that, obviously. But back to the euspheres, because when I bought them, I thought, okay, I buy them and I know how I can use them, but actually I bought them as a backup plan, just in case. If any of those 2 euspheres that I grew, or that I grow now next to the urn, is gonna fizzle out at one point, you never know. It never happened to me. Yew is so resistant to anything, and not a single plant ever died in my garden. But just in case, I was like, I want to have a backup. If any of them is not going to make it through this year, I have a second one. Alfie has a 5 minutes of madness. She's just running around now. So, yeah, I thought it's just a kind of just like a nice double deal because I will have a nice use sphere in my container in my pot garden, and if I'm in need I could just put it there as well. I think I'm just going to use one in a container and the second one might actually go into the new herbaceous border, because remember I planted this one big use sphere together with you and it looks a little lonely. I think it might need a friend eventually, so I'm gonna keep hold of that for a little while. Just one of the two use spheres is going to go into a container and the second one, let's see what I'm going to do with that. But first thing I'm going to do is clear the area and then start potting up. The area is looking good, nice, prepared, clean, happy about that. You could see that I could still plant one of the eucharis because they were still really nice. It had a lot of fresh leaves appearing from the base of the plant and a good root system. So I decided to put it in the back of a garden just next to those 3 roses that I planted together with you, because I feel this really kind of like sinister, dark red foliage of the euchre is going to be quite a nice combination with these bluish, pinkish flowers of the rose. I'm going to give you an update once they come to flower, how everything looks and develops in that area, obviously. Could even use some of the soil that was in the containers, because when you do autumn containers, most of the plants won't root in. So in theory, I could have used the soil again now here for my spring containers, but I could also use it back there in the new kitchen garden. So I decided to just quickly dump it there, basically work it in there because it's going to do its goodness there as well. What I'm going to do now is quickly show you what is really hiding underneath the lid of the well, because there is literally just sand. I'm not hiding anything there. And also show you how I make a decision of which plant goes in what container, because I've already put all my containers there. I'm kind of set and ready to start with the planting. Here we go, the big reveal of what is hiding underneath the lid here. Can tell you nothing exciting really. Oh, that is heavier to what I remembered it. Ooh. Okay, it's deeper to what I thought. It's just a lot of spider web actually. And then after 2 meters there's sand. This is all there is basically. So what I do now is close it again and then put some containers over it just to hide all of this. I already chose what kind of containers I want to use for today's video, so you can tell I'm only going with bigger size containers in different heights. And the reason for it is that I just follow the exact same planting scheme to what I did in front of the garden shed, which means 1 specimen of plant per container. So I put like maybe 3, 4, 5 plants in a container, but only 1 specimen, 1 color. Quick side information about my new container. Oh, that was Alfie. I told you this is a new one and it has a plastic bucket in the inside and it came without drainage holes. So what I did is I came in and drilled 2 holes at the base of the container, and this is something you really need to have a firm eye on. If you buy a new container and if it doesn't have drainage holes, definitely try and put some in, because otherwise you end up with a swamp container. Before I plant anything, the first thing I always do is I look at what do I have and which plant goes in what container, and by doing that you can already envision how you want to arrange all the containers to a nice pot garden in the end. So first thing I'm going to do is have a look at how many plants do I have, how many containers do I have, and how many plants do I want to put in one container, because then you already have a good idea on how things might work out. First thing I'm going to look at is a topiary, and I already had an idea initially where this one should go. Topiary, obviously this is an element of formality, and I think to break the pattern it would be quite nice to take this topiary and put it in a basket weave container, because the basket weave container speaks like quite country and natural material to me, because I think this is going to be a rather nice look. Now I'm going to look at all my flowers and where I'm going to put them. Obviously I also have my euchre, which I'm not going to plant so much for the flowers. I think that they will flower white at one point. Most of the dark foliage varieties do. This is called mulberry, by the way, and I'm only using it for the dark red foliage accent in here because I think this really adds to the interest. I've got 3 plants, so I need a rather big container for it. I've got these 2 which are quite big, equal size, so one goes in here, which is lovely. Then the hyacinth, they are the ones that are not going to stay very long in this arrangement. Obviously the pansies, they are going to live in here for quite a good time. The eucharis might even stay for the entire year in that container. So the hyacinth, I think they're going to go in a container where they do their business, look nice, and then I can just dig them out and put them in the landscape. So I feel the highest container might be quite nice because then they like kind of like throning over everything. So one hyacinth goes in here as a variety name. Nope. Nothing, can't tell you anything, unfortunately. Then the pansies, again, local garden centre, no variety name, I can't tell you anything. They are just beautiful. Got 5 of those, so they need to go in a big container as well because I want to keep them together. So here they go into the next bigger container, and then I've got these 2 a little smaller containers. Is that nice now? Yeah, I think this is going to work nice. So I've got this flat of my pink pansies. Is there a variety name? They came from the garden centre of the hardware store. No, Viola F1. I mean, if that is a romantic name, no, that is not really a name there. I mean, there are so many varieties, and I think everybody can find really wonderful colors of pansies nowadays. So obviously I've got 8 of these, and I will just make sure that I plant them in these 2 containers. Maybe I need a third one. I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah. I think this is a really nice idea. I'm going to start planting now. For the planting, I use just fresh bags of potting soil, and then I just mix some fertilizer in there. I always use organic bone chips. Just make sure that you put a nice starting fertilizer in there, because these are spring plants and they will root in and they will do their goodness. And especially the euchre, for example, I try and intend keeping them in there for as long as possible. So now's a good time to really fertilize your plants. This is what I'm going to do, make sure that I plant everything, and then comes the biggest fun part of arranging the pots. What a frosty day for gardening, but I'm happy that I'm done. Really loving the result, excited to show you how it looks. Gonna do it now right before I'm heading inside and throw myself in the biggest cup of tea there possibly is. Do you think that Alfie enjoys the scent of the hyacinth as well? This is what I asked myself already, because they start to open and they scent absolutely wonderful. It's always a great idea to put those next to your main entrance if you love hyacinth. But let's have a quick look at the pots over there. From the distance, you can't really tell a lot, I suppose. But I think what works nice already is the element of cohesion, because I have those box topiary spheres here at the front, and then I have the U sphere there in the back. So I always like when things make sense and when things are color coordinated, and I really believe that this is exactly what it is. We just walk closer there. I put the basket weave facing to the front because I really love and enjoy the texture of it, and also really love and enjoy just the topiary piece. Quickly made a decision of putting one more moss container in there, but just have a look at these wonderful pansies again. I really think that these are one of my most favorite that I've seen in quite a long time. Also the pink ones, really beautiful in the wind here. Can't wait for the tulips to kick in, also for the hyacinth to start in the back of there. 2 Christmas trees are just back there. I know green in front of green, you can't see a lot, but I try and incorporate them as good as I can. Really happy with the outcome of this project today. Believe it or not, but that project was on my list for at least 4 weeks from now. I think I bought those pansies literally 3 or 4 weeks, and they sat on the driveway ever since. There were moments where I thought they're just gonna die, but nope. they pulled through. They were just looking forward to a nice new home, which they have now. Can't wait to show you updates on how they're going to thrive in their containers. One last thing I want to tell you is remember to water your evergreens, especially in pots, because if the weather situation is to what I had here right now, I haven't had rain for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I think, and it's really vital to remind yourself to water your evergreens in order to keep them going. So go out there, make your evergreens happy, because I'm going inside now, make myself happy. I'm just going to sit in front of a nice warm fireplace. Would love to welcome you in my garden very soon again. Take care, guys. Bye.